This is Matthew Cox recording a teaching sample on the pancreas for Midlands Technical College. The pancreas is a triangular gland in the abdominal cavity that sits behind the stomach. It is a mixed endocrine and exocrine gland. The predominant cells in the pancreas are acinar cells, producing the exocrine product, which is an enzyme-rich juice used for digestion, converting carbohydrates into sugars, proteins into amino acids, fats into fatty acids and glycerol, and nucleic acids into nucleotides. The remaining cells of the pancreas are clustered together in groups called pancreatic islets or islets of Langerhans. These are producing hormones, which are the endocrine product of the pancreas. The two major cell types in the pancreatic islets include alpha cells producing glucagon and beta cells producing insulin. Glucagon is a polypeptide hormone that's a potent hyperglycemic agent. This means it's going to raise blood sugar between meals. It does so through glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. Glycogenolysis takes stored glycogen and breaks it down into glucose, and gluconeogenesis takes lactic acid and non-carbohydrates like fats and proteins and converts them into glucose. And then the liver cells that are undergoing glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis will release that sugar into the bloodstream, raising blood sugar levels. Insulin is a protein hormone that's a potent hypoglycemic agent. This means it lowers blood sugar following meals. This is going to enhance the glucose transport into the body cells for glucose utilization. It will also counter metabolic activity that would increase blood sugar levels. As glucose enters the cell, insulin triggers enzymatic activity that causes oxidation of glucose into ATP, and then polymerizes glucose into glycogen to store it for later. This principally happens in muscle and liver tissue, and will also convert glucose into fat, particularly in the adipose tissue. Insulin and glucagon are both humorally stimulated hormones, which means they are produced in response to changes in blood concentration. This is going to be in response to blood sugar levels. As blood sugar rises, insulin is produced and glucose is converted into glycogen through glycogenesis. And as blood sugar levels fall, glucagon is produced, converting glycogen back into glucose through glycogenolysis. This will also trigger gluconeogenesis, converting fats and proteins into sugar, raising blood sugar back up to normal levels. As a result, insulin and glucagon are antagonistic hormones that have opposite effects. Insulin is produced by the pancreas in response to rising blood sugar levels, triggering glucose uptake by cells and converting glucose into glycogen in the liver. This is going to lower our blood sugar levels. As sugar levels decline, we're going to see the pancreas produces glucagon, and this takes the stored glycogen and converts it back into glucose, raising our blood sugar levels. But this is why we see weight loss is so difficult, because insulin will trigger glucose utilization by tissues other than the liver, but glucagon does not immediately cause the breakdown of fats. It breaks down glycogen predominantly. Homeostatic imbalances of the pancreas include diabetes mellitus. This is going to result from hyposecretion or hypoactivity of the insulin. So we see two types of diabetes. The three cardinal signs of diabetes mellitus are polyuria, polydipsia, and polyphagia. Polyuria is excessive urine output. This is a result of glucose in the urine building up an osmotic pressure, which pulls fluid into the filtrate, raising your urine output, causing dehydration. Polydipsia is the result of this dehydration. It triggers an excessive thirst response. And as sugar levels rise in the bloodstream, the hypothalamus should respond to the sugar levels, but without insulin, it does not. And so this triggers a hunger response and increased food consumption. And then food consumption further raises your blood sugar levels. Symptoms of diabetes include hyperglycemia, which is elevated blood sugar levels because the tissues can't utilize the glucose in the bloodstream. Glycosuria, sugar in the urine, as a result of the kidneys failing to reclaim the excess sugar that filters into the filtrate. Lipolysis, which is a breakdown of fat, which is a starvation response, will convert fats and proteins into ketones and aldehydes. Ketones are incredibly acidic. They build up in the urine, causing ketonuria. and as they build up in the bloodstream, we cause ketoacidosis. Ketoacidosis causes central nervous system depression as the acidosis impairs neural functioning. The two types of diabetes are type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is insulin-dependent juvenile onset diabetes. This is a result of defective insulin production as a result of an autoimmune disorder attacking the beta cells, preventing insulin production. So it is treated through insulin injections. Type 2 diabetes is an insulin-dependent adult onset diabetes. This is a result of defective insulin receptors, typically caused by overstimulation of the receptors due to chronically elevated blood sugar levels. And so this is going to be treated through diet and exercise and drugs like metformin or glucophage, which prevents the absorption of glucose from the blood into the bloodstream, slowing the metabolism of sugar, and then allowing the insulin to work at a lower level, but maintaining normal blood sugar levels. We also see hyperinsulinism is another imbalance of the pancreas. This is excessive insulin secretion. The insulin stimulates the uptake of glucose in all tissues, particularly muscle, fat, liver, and brain. Muscles are going to convert glucose into glycogen, so will liver. Fat will convert sugar into fat, and then the brain will utilize sugar for neural activities. This results in a hypoglycemia, low blood sugar levels. We'll also see a reciprocal release of hyperglycemic hormones, glucagon, epinephrine, and cortisol. These are going to raise blood sugar levels in response to the falling blood sugar, but it will be insufficient to counteract the hypoglycemia. The hypoglycemia will trigger central nervous system anxiety, and the lack of glucose to the brain will lead to convulsions, unconsciousness, and death.